main point of inflection point was most people couldn't understand that when all the high-tech industries went to China, they went there for two reasons. Number one, they could put into effect all their ideas about a social credit score and also about surveillance, because nobody's got better surveillance than China. And that's how we knew the true effect of how many deaths were in China by COVID-19 were because of the cell phone cancellations. That's interesting. In China, almost everybody was either required to have a cell phone or had one. Well, when you have millions of cell phones going dark and people trying to figure out what was going on, somebody said, wait a minute. And so they checked the known deaths with COVID against the cell phones. So that was one of the ways that we could tell the official narrative was a lie. So now the social credit score, and this is a big point and make an inflection point, now the social credit score that could never have been built in the United States due to some of our laws was built overseas and now has been imported into the U.S. And for everyone's record, it's running against us. And I want to share something because most people are unaware of this. They think if they turn their phone up, I call this my hell phone, H-E-L-L phone, they don't recognize that the phone turning it off doesn't do a thing, because intrinsic in the design is the ability to broadcast power. Also, most people don't know that their cell phones act as an echolocation device, similar to how a bat navigates in a cave. And so we're being, and my version, and this is me, but we're being tracked, whacked, and stacked. We're hearing stories of some of the most prominent people in the world, whether you like or don't like them. Suleiman, the head intelligence agent for Iran, was taken out by a predator drone that he basically was taken on a cell phone signal. So it's important that people understand the expectation of privacy no longer exists. And the last thing I'll say about this, and I talk about this in Inflection Point, is that everyone on the planet who's ever spoken on a telephone, their voice is voice printed. You can't, I used to sell countermeasure stuff 20 years ago, and even voice scramblers and stuff. Well, there was a while, a very short while, where you could use voice scramblers. I had a modem, let's say you would have a modem, and then that became irrelevant because all of the software that ran those were made known to the intelligence agencies by demand. The other thing I think that's critical are the earth changes that are happening. As you and I are doing this interview, and I don't know when it will play, but Mount Rainier is having massive amounts of swarms of earthquakes. And you guys, and I say you guys, Prophecy Watchers, also has the video Cascadia. This was done 5 years ago. And as we're talking, Mondo, the amount of activity at Mount St. Helens, it's smoking again. Yeah, it's not just, a little bit of puffs of smoke. So what I think everyone needs to understand is this. You will have no heads up officially. So what I have to do, and like you have to do, or we have to do, is lay out what we see happening and allow people to be able to draw their own conclusions, because my maxim is you will never be told the truth. We will never be told the truth. And all national security issues were nothing more than to keep the taxpayers where they don't belong. I understand the necessity for some things being secret, but here's the problem. What we consider secret is on the internet or for sale on the dark web. And for the record, I do not go on the dark web. I've never been on the dark web, but people who, like investigators, like Doug Hagman and stuff, have told me what's available and anything, what's available there, and anything you want, real-time intelligence, satellite photos, if you know the right pass-throughs and the right keys. And by the way, everybody's trading Bitcoin or the equivalent of, cryptocurrency. You can buy anything you want. And as a point that's really critical, right now we're talking about invading Venezuela, the current administration. You and I aren't, but the current administration is. They're talking about making war on the narco-terrorists. And what a lot of people need to know is all of that war material by the billions that was left in Afghanistan in that ill-fated, I would say this, escape from Afghanistan, along with the betrayal of a lot of Afghanis that worked with us, is that stuff's showing up on the black market. So if in the years I've been researching and writing and video producing, the point that I want everyone to understand is anything and everything's available on the black market, and all that war material, state of the art, is being sold into not only the narco terrorist gangs but into the U.S. Let's say this certain blue states that are literally talking about going to war with the federal government. So we're at a time of distress of nations. And when Jesus said nation will rise against nation, that's ethnos against ethnos. And unfortunately, the racial strife that's being stirred up is being stirred up. It's already, the seeds of that were planted under the abomination administration. That's my definition of that. So I think it's important that people understand the inflection point DVD is warning people of things yet to come. Because as I tell people, I don't have flashbacks. Fortunately, I never did drugs, but I have flash forwards. The same thing that Tom Horn would identify. And boy, I'm telling you right now, a latest film I'm working on producing is called The Alien Vatican Alliance. So it's interesting with all the UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, the UFOs. There's so much happening. And now with archaeology, and we talked, you're going to Egypt, and Egypt's got some of the biggest revelations coming forth into the public sector. And I mean, it's British, Daily Mail is showing cities or parts of cities under the Pyramid of Giza. And I want to tell everybody, there are 1920 and 1930 articles discussing the underground city of giants that lie beneath not only the Giza Plateau, but go up for about 100 miles. That's a lot of area. And most people that have heard of the burning of the Library of Alexandria, where all known information at that time was cataloged there and kept until it was set on fire. Well, all of the, if you will, the catalog entries of the Alexandrian repository are on the walls. Now, think about how much you could write on the wall. Talk about graffiti, if you've got walls that go on that far. So we're learning that there's an alternative history that the, let's say, this usurpers of real history have covered up and covered over. And that's what basically launched Tom Horn and I together to warn the people of what we were going to see coming, but more importantly, what they would see coming, because God says if his people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, that's what the scripture says, because they reject it, then they can be delivered and preserved through the presentation of knowledge.
I want to go back to something because, we're talking about all these discoveries. Again, there's been these scans that have been done, satellite scans and other things done of that which is underneath the pyramids. Are talking about, electrical power plants. I mean, do you anticipate? I know you discussed it in here. Maybe talk about what you anticipate. Maybe will there be some more discoveries? Will we finally? I mean, we'll never know everything, but do you anticipate more discoveries?